the 312th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the Thanksgiving week 2019. This episode is titled Dreamforce 19 Recap. CloudFocus Weekly is brought to you by the new Clone This User, duplicates you'll love. We've rebuilt Clone This User in Lightning, so it now works as a component. Throw it on your homepage and get to cloning. Available for free on the App Exchange or clonethisuser.com. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me, co-host Justin Elstein in what we're now calling Studio 3A or Studio 3B.
The Echo Chamber.
The Echo Chamber. Let's just say we're in an empty room.
With echoes. We're here with ourselves and ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's our other selves.
Pretty bare, so bear with us.
Cody, bear with us. Oh, squeeze that one in there to your dismay.
That was terrible. Morning podcasts are never good.
Oh, boy.
So let's get to the agenda. We're going to do a little blog catch-up, as we do, and then we'll talk Dreamforce 19. The good, the bad, the fun. I'll make some picks, and then we'll go have some happy Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're recording this in the day before Thanksgiving.
Great.
Don't know when it'll go up, but maybe it'll go up after Thanksgiving. I don't know. So I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
Maybe it'll go up sometime.
Yeah, it'll go up sometime.
Somewhere, wherever.
All right, so let's do some blog pack catch-up.
We should do some blog catch-up. All right, so why don't we start with this one, about Arkus at Dreamforce? Or do you want to do this?
Yeah, we don't really have to because we're going to talk about Dreamforce. So why don't we start with the other one?
All right, fine. Talk about record types in Salesforce. Berkeley Baker wrote this one. It's a rehash of something that I wrote in 2000 and I don't know.
I can click on it and tell you wrote it in 2013.
Okay, yeah, sure. 2013. Looks like that.
April 14th, 2013.
It's like that link is broken, but anyway.
Worked for me.
Didn't work for me. Weird. But record types have sort of stayed the same, but kind of have a couple new layers to them now with Lightning and Lightning record pages, respecting record types and things of that nature. Berkeley decided to kind of rehash this one and go a little deeper into where things have changed over the last number of years with record types. While lots of things stay the same, there are a few little things that record types still hold the keys to the castle on.
Yeah, funny because we look obviously at the blog statistics using Google Analytics, and there are a couple of things from a long time ago that still get hit a ton, and that the record type one you wrote still gets hit a ton. I think people Google Salesforce record types. How do you do Salesforce record types? And up pops your blog post from a billion years ago, and people still read it. And so it's cool that we now have two of them. We're always going for the SEO. So thanks, Berkeley, for the SEO.
Thank you, Berkeley.
The next one, really, we could just get into Dreamforce because
we could.
By the way, Arkus at Dreamforce.
We should mention that, when you're reading a blog post from Arkus these days, there's a link on the top right-hand corner of the blog post. It's sort of hidden right now. It's a slow roll.
This is the pre-pilot beta?
Pre-pilot beta, alpha beta. Get on the newsletter list. That's all it says. Get on the newsletter list.
Yeah, so arkus.inc.com/subscribe.
Yeah, there's that. And you can also just click on it from the blog page, and this will just have you subscribe to the Arkus blog newsletters instead of listening to us talk about all these blog posts. And we don't even talk about all of them because there's just too many of them these days. You can have these show up in your inbox, and you can read them full of knowledge. Wonderful, yay, yay. Safe harbor on when you'll actually get the first email, but
December.
Start signing up. That way you can actually start getting them in your inbox.
Yeah, so it will be, it's opt-in and, of course, opt-out if you want. It will feature, what we're planning now is featuring highlighted blog posts. So if we're not going to publish every blog post because then you're literally just getting a list of things that we publish. We're going to highlight some blog posts that were sort of popular for that period of time, for the previous month, as well as if there was a podcast or if there's any upcoming events or things that we're doing that are of interest. But again, we have had people approach us and say, wow, I love the blog, but I forget to go read it. And honestly, newsletters and mailing lists are so anti to everything I believe in, but some people still use them as a way to keep caught up on stuff. So here you go. So we're drinking our own Kool-Aid. And
Not your Kool-Aid.
Huh?
Not your Kool-Aid.
Well, our Kool-Aid.
You wouldn't have mixed this
I would
Kool-Aid.
never have done this. Never. No, it's good. It's good there's tons of people who just don't want to be bothered to have to go look at the blog post. And honestly, RSS feeds, I mean, they were super big back in the day when we were all caught up in them. Now I feel like I don't think people use readers and RSS readers and stuff anymore. I think it's all switched over to social, and it's all switched over to feeds that you don't subscribe to the feed. You just follow people.
Yeah.
So
I feel like RSS, the technology's still under there doing a lot of the stuff. What was it, like pub, sub, hub, something like that, right?
That's an XML feed of data.
Anyway.
Which ours exists, by the way. Scroll to the bottom of the blog post. They're subscribed to RSS. So if you still want to use I use Feedly, which was the replacement for Google Reader.
Get in there.
Yeah.
Do it. We were very upset when Google killed off Reader, but I think they saw that coming. Like, they were on that. No need for readers.
They replaced it with Google Google News, kind of, but it's not as good. Yeah. Feedly's really good.
I like Apple News. I just hop in there. I got my sources. It comes on in.
See, there you go.
That's all I need. It's very visual.
But they're feeding that information into most of those things using RSS.
That's right. So RSS is still there. You're just interacting with it in a different way.
In a whole different way. Interacting with your
customers in a whole new way.
Speaking of
delighting them every time.
Whole new way.
Let's delight them.
Why don't we talk about Dreamforce?
Delightful.
How is your Dreamforce?
I can tell I'm bothering you.
Oh my God, you're so annoying.
I had a great Dreamforce. This was one of my favorite Dreamforces. I don't know how that happened. So I was going into Dreamforce this year with a different approach than normal. I did not schedule any sort of anything with respect to sessions, anything to do with looking at technology. I tried to stay away from looking at technology at Dreamforce. Crazy, I know, but not what I was interested in. I was interested in seeing people I hadn't seen in a while, and clients of ours, partners of ours, and just connecting with people. And that's what I was looking forward to, and that's what happened, and that's why I thought it was very successful, and that's why I had a great time. It wasn't about the technology. I attended one keynote, the main keynote, and actually stayed the whole time. I haven't done that in like 3 or 4 years. I've walked out in the middle of those keynotes. I think it was just a little shorter. So maybe I stayed the whole time. They actually stayed to schedule. And I got a chance to see some really amazing speakers in the process. I saw Tim Cook, saw Barack Obama. I mean, that's like, whoa, how do you beat that? We were trying to beat it, right? Like, who could you beat? Saw Yo-Yo Ma speak. He was really interesting. It was a different Dreamforce for that reason. And I also got to spend a lot of time with some of the students who were there with the Trailhead for Student program, as well as some of the Pep Up Tech students, climbers, a number of different, I would say, just people who are just breaking into the Salesforce universe. And that was a lot of fun for me to talk to people who are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about getting into Salesforce and drinking the Dreamforce Kool-Aid for the first time. And here I'm like Grumpster, like 12 years, and no, it reinvigorated me, and I liked it. So kudos to Salesforce for putting on a show for everybody this year, and that actually really goes to what the whole show was about, which was doing things together. And I felt like they put on a good show for literally anybody who was there. If it was your first time, you get to learn a lot of stuff. If it's your 12th time, great, have a family reunion and meet some new people along the way. Yeah, go ahead, your turn.
Yeah.
Your turn now. You go now.
I agree in a lot of things. Dreamforce was my favorite. My 10th was my favorite up until this point. So I guess 11, 12 were disappointments, but 13 hit a new high. Again, I think everybody approaches this Dreamforce so differently now, and what your goals are and what you're supposed to be doing. And my goals from the first Dreamforce when I was just a customer, I was that person walking around like, what is this? This is insane. All these, 15 to 20,000 people. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy, man. And going out and being wined and dined by Salesforce AEs and all that. And just the keynotes and it was just, everything was just seemed over the top. And then as the years went on, I switched to being a partner. And then it was very much like, oh my God, a booth. We have to get people and scan people and set up and swag and all that, which became, difficult for a while. And now it's gone into sort of just, as we've grown as a company, which is great, and my involvement in the day-to-day details of Dreamforce have gone down. It was nice just to show up. My favorite part of Dreamforce was that I just showed up. I landed, we did stuff, I met with as many people as I possibly could fit, it's sort of just, again, a combo of employees who I hadn't seen, right? Sit down, have nice times with them, partners, customers, we call them clients, but sit down with my clients, and then just friends, like literally friends in the ecosystem. And that's always the best part of Dreamforce, is just being able to sit down and talk to people. And then obviously the highlights were the keynotes this year, because the main keynote was fine. Again, it's at this point I can't pick which keynote is which and whatever. I do find it funny that we have sat next to each other in that keynote for pretty much every time, 12 times. I don't think we've missed one. So that's kind of fun. We're just, it's kind of a tradition to sit there and watch the keynote. And then, what I ask for in those keynotes is keep the marketing hype to a minimum, show the value of Salesforce and the ecosystem that it's around it. And I think they did that. They really started with a nice story. But, actually you commented, and I'll call you out for commenting, which was a great observation as we left. So they highlighted two customers this time. Sometimes I highlight three. Sometimes that's what gets a little long, like, they go back to them and back to them and back to them. And they're kind of showing off technology at the same time. I always, they highlighted two, It
was State Farm Insurance, State Farm. And then it was Louis Vuitton.
Right. So always, and I'll say it because I have to say it, there does seem to be a tone deafness to highlighting sort of the big problems in the world and then moving to custom bags that are $20,000, $30,000 bags. And that I know why they do it. I understand it. I understand that they're a customer and they're paying them a lot of money, and that's their job, to highlight big brands and show the rest of the prospects there, hey, you want to be like Louis Vuitton. They're big. You want to be big? Use Salesforce. It's a marketing message. But it does seem to always feel a little bit like, geez, you just started with like all the problems in the world and working together to do stuff. And I don't think Louis Vuitton represents that. They represent something else. So where you said, and I'll take on your great observation, where was the customer story around the nonprofit side? We've seen it before. They've done Red. They've done, I'm trying to think of the big one they did a couple years ago.
United Way was a big one.
Yeah.
Because of Philanthropy Cloud.
Where is that? And again, that's the thing. It shouldn't be about trying to highlight your product, but you should almost always, on the keynote, highlight a nonprofit. Like, why aren't you not highlighting a nonprofit?
So they highlighted Merivis,
yep,
who does great work, who helps veterans. It's a training program for veterans in conjunction with VetForce to help veterans and veteran families get back and skill up and get into the workforce.
Right.
And it's a great program, and I've met some folks who work there and some folks who are very involved over there. But my observation to you is rather specific, because we work a lot in the nonprofit space. Wouldn't it be great if just for once, like, instead of pulling at the heartstrings with the nonprofit story, like, you can do that and then have a second nonprofit story that's all about how the technology is helping to make an impact and what the technology is doing to help the nonprofit organization make that impact in the world, as opposed to showing off a fancy light up bag.
Right.
Which I get, like you said, Louis Vuitton, right? Who sitting in the room as a retailer, whoa, I want to be like Louis Vuitton. Of course, I want my online experience and my in-store experience to all be like Louis Vuitton. Cool. But, as someone who's sitting there who implements a lot of technology for nonprofits, there was nothing for a nonprofit who's in the audience who they like to make stand up and appreciate those people. But there's nothing for them to look at and see the vision. Like, what can I do?
Right.
No, you have your own keynote. It's the nonprofit cloud keynote, so go over there. We're just going to highlight these two big companies over here with this keynote that spans every single one of our cloud except for the nonprofit one.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that.
I just think that's a miss. I don't understand it. So I understand it from why have Louis Vuitton. I don't understand it from why not have one nonprofit. So if you're going to highlight 3, which they only did 2 this year, throw in the nonprofit one. Throw in and they started with all the nonprofit stuff. It's great. And they started with the training and the growing the 4.2 million jobs and all that, which is awesome. It is awesome. And I'm I know what they're trying to do, and I'm behind them. And one of my highlights, we can talk about the keynotes, but one of my highlights was volunteering at the career fair. Mm-hmm. Me and a bunch of other MVPs were volunteering in a huge career fair that over 800 people showed up for. I made the joke because I kept putting this thing, 4.2 million jobs, it's new jobs in the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think they should have told people that it wasn't 4.2 million jobs at that career fair that day.
Or at the company called Salesforce, because that's the other confusing part is a lot of people think, all right, I'm going to go work at Salesforce. They're going to create 4 million jobs over the next 5 years. It's like, no, wait, hold on. No.
It'll be
lot of, maybe the 0.2 of the 4.2, maybe?
You're getting 200,000 jobs at Salesforce?
I said maybe, didn't I?
Yeah. No.
Right. So maybe the 0.2.
Yeah.
But maybe just 0.1, maybe 0.05, whatever. But the majority of those, no.
They're in the ecosystem.
They're in the ecosystem, and you have to learn about that. And that was an interesting one.
And it kind of goes in, so you actually missed it because you were doing other things for students, which was great, but my other annual tradition that I love is sitting down with Adam Torman, who's product manager of My Trailhead, and we sat there and talked about this is the thing that Trailhead is one of the ways of trying to get these people into the ecosystem is by using My Trailhead, but Trailhead, and by getting them trained up. And how do you create this ecosystem and create all these jobs? Well, you first have to get them to understand the platform. I was even stunned, as much as Trailhead, I feel like it's shoved down my throat. I was stunned, and I talked to maybe 10, 15 people in 2 hours, maybe a little more. And some people would come up and be like, I'd be like, hi, what would you like? What are you here for? I'd like a job. Okay.
Hire me.
Yeah. What are you trying to do? And then
I'm trying to make money.
And I would say, and we'd go through this whole same thing that I'd break down for them. But I'd always start with, okay, so tell me where you are in your journey. Have you completed ABAC? Some of them had never heard of Trailhead.
Right.
And I was like, huh?
That's a rough room to be in if you've never heard of Trailhead.
And some people had just showed up, literally had just heard about this career fair and just showed up. They're like, I was walking along and I heard about it, or it got posted in my college and I just showed up. And so then it felt like, oh, I understand Salesforce in some ways needs to do a better job about talking about the ecosystem and talking about where the jobs are and how to get them and so anyway, Torman and I were talking a lot about that, what's the missing piece and a lot of NDA stuff, but sure. They're working on stuff that I think will make it easier in the future.
Yeah. It's still very new, right? It's only 2 or 3 years, I think 3, for this student program, and it was very fledgling at Dreamforce 17. That was the first career fair that they had.
I remember it was a little corral.
A little corral in the back of the dev zone somewhere, and there were maybe 50 to 100 people showed up to a handful of tables of employers. We were one of them.
Yep.
It's grown quite a bit, the program, and it has people behind it, and I think it will grow and scale. But you're right, it does need a little bit of why are you attending this?
Yeah.
It's not just to get a job. I mean, that's your ultimate outcome at the end of the day. It's I'm going to get a job. This is a step in that direction. Cool. But know why you're there beyond that. And the people who I talked, now you were helping people prepare and talk to them about the ecosystem and what the jobs are and whatnot. I was actually standing at our our booth that we had there. We did have a booth at the career fair, a table, and
It was a high top.
It was a high top. There were 3 of us, so I was doing a lot of walking around. But it was very clear when people came over, like, who knew, like, of Arkus, what Arkus was, and was, like, prepared to talk to whoever it was that was standing at the Arkus booth versus somebody who just walked over and were like, hi, who's
Jobs.
Arkus? Yeah.
Job.
More like, I kind of get it, but like, what's Arkus? Like, why would I work here? And it's like, well, I'm not going to answer that necessarily. Why do you want to work here?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, have a clue when you're walking up that you're talking to a company that could hire you and what they actually do, because it might not be what you're interested in at all.
That was my main piece to every person sat down, and that's why I'll repeat it here, was you kind of have to know when you're cutting into the ecosystem. You have to understand the ecosystem. So that takes work, right? That takes research. That takes going into the community. That going to Salesforce Saturdays. That means talking to people. And half the things I said to everybody was, get involved in the community. Go talk to people. Go talk to physical people and just say, hey, I'm new to this world. What do you do? How do you like it? How do you get into it? What's your job title? What kind of things do you do in your day? And if you could talk to a developer, an admin, a consultant, a technical architect, a business analyst, all these roles that they put out there, which, they put them so it's easy to understand, then you find like, oh, I get what you're trying to do. And then based on that, I would say you have to now figure out your path to get in. And you need, I don't know, I've just done this because it makes it easier. I say it's a 20, 30, 50 rule. You need 20% to focus on your badges and trailhead, and you need 30% to focus on your certifications, and then you need 50% to focus on your experience. And so obviously experience is the very difficult thing for people to get into the ecosystem, because you can't get experience without kind of having a job, but whatever. So that was one of my highlights. And then let's just talk about the 2 amazing speakers that we saw at the...
I was going to stay with you and riffing on that career thing just for a second.
Sure.
Because, they do put, and I will say on Trailhead on the website, like, there's this career path page, and they do put out all these different paths of, like, their Salesforce administrator, Salesforce developer, Salesforce architect, business analyst, marketing careers, sales careers, Salesforce consultant, service careers. I could argue that Salesforce administrator is like 4 of those things.
Yeah.
Easily. Like, business analyst, okay. How about be an admin?
Yeah.
Developer, how about be an admin, don't write code? Yeah. It's hard to explain for people, because if they're looking at this and they're like, oh, business analyst, I'm into data and I'm a critical thinker. Like, that's okay, got it. Like, I think that stuff needs to be explained because everyone has their take on what jobs could or should be available within the ecosystem. And I say could or should, right? Because in our model, right, a project manager, which is not even listed as a title here,
right,
which should be, does a lot of these things.
Yep.
Most of these things. Yep. And I know that they call it a consultant, Salesforce consultant, but really it's a lot of these things all mixed into one. And I think that it can be very confusing for someone to look at this for the first time and not understand, like, oh, an admin's not just someone who's resetting your passwords.
Right. No,
they're very important and they are highly skilled.
But that's where I say that, like, this is the starting page, and that's where I'd push back on a lot of the candidates, they weren't candidates to me, but all the career seekers, was, okay, but now time to do the research. Like, let's, put the effort in. The effort's in the community. Like, that's the way you're going to do the best in Salesforce, is to get into the community. And I'm not talking about the online community, that's part of it. I'm talking about the online community, the offline community, the social community, because that's where I think you can learn the most. And there's these things out there that all the time. And I was pointing people to Salesforce Saturdays. I was pointing people to user group meetings. I was like, go to them. And just, I've seen people do it. You walk in, you can just open up your hand and go, hi, I'm Jason Atwood. I don't know anything about Salesforce. What do you do?
Right.
Why are you here? Oh, I'm a developer. Oh, I'm a this. Oh, that. Where do you work? Oh, how is that? Is that interesting? What do you people are, especially in this community, and I think that what will end with what I think makes it so super special, is people are generally very, very helpful. I mean, that's what makes a community, right? If people aren't helpful, then that's not really a good community aspect. But they're extremely helpful and willing to talk to you and willing to give you advice and help with what you're doing. So for all you career seekers out there, the best way to do it is not just to go hit your 5 certs or get your 15 or 700 badges or whatever, but like really get involved in the community and learn about it, because it'll be easier then to pick which one of these paths. And again, it might take like going to 3 different meetings and a couple different Saturdays, and you'll kind of figure it out. Like after you talk to a couple people, okay, you do this. Oh, you're a sole admin at a firm. Oh, what's it like? What do you do during the day? Like, just ask, how big's your team? There's so many things you could get in on. So
it's
anyway.
a very interesting and unique community in that way, that there's no judgments. Just ask.
Yeah.
Talk to people. Sign up for one of these programs. There's so many programs, so many nonprofits that have popped up that are there to get people into this ecosystem.
Yep.
Sign up for one.
Yep.
Apply. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're probably past that, but if you're not and you're just listening to this for the first time, take us up on some of these suggestions.
Some of this free advice.
Yeah, go into the community, hang out. Like you said, seeing people in person is important when you're trying to just break in. Twitter's great, but it's not going to do it. Like
No.
you gotta meet somebody face to face.
Also, it's where connections are made. Like I know at almost every user group meeting, whether it's the nonprofit one, whether it's the developer one, whether it's the just Salesforce one, or whether it's the specialized one like financial services, depending on when your area is.
Or women in tech, something like that.
There's so many of them.
So many.
I know there's a section where people go, hey, anybody looking for a job?
Right.
Anybody need a job?
Who's hiring? Who's looking?
So there alone, you're with human beings, and you get to stand up and go, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Again, the most important, I think, is just to talk to people and to learn, because to show up to a career fair for me and to be like, hey, I don't know anything about Salesforce, and I am actually someone who's hiring. I'm like, I don't know anything about Salesforce. What do you got? I was like, wait, why don't you put in some work first? And then there were other people who showed up and said, I've done this, this, and this. I've done this. I've been here, and here's what. Now what? And then my advice and what I could give them was much more focused. Be like, oh, great. Here's what. Now you should tweak this. You should try this. You should try this, and go here, as opposed to, hey, I just walked in the door and I haven't done any research. So,
yeah. Hey, breaking news.
What?
Breaking.
Yeah.
As of like 13 minutes ago.
What?
We are a nonprofit cloud master.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No. I mean, I knew it was coming.
We are officially a nonprofit cloud master.
CloudFocus Weekly, brought to you by Arkus.
Masters of the nonprofit cloud.
Awesome.
Arkus.
All right. Speaking of awesome
breaking
things.
news.
Yeah, that is breaking news.
You don't even care.
Well, because it's not what this podcast is about. Like,
Well, it's breaking.
It's not
We're breaking in. It's breaking.
All right, I want to go back to Dreamforce. I want to go back to Dreamforce.
Oh, okay.
Talk about the 2 keynotes.
Go on.
So first one that was, beyond there was amazing speakers. Again, I think this is probably the best speakers that ever happened. We went to the Tim Cook, and that was very good. My take on it was, he doesn't speak a lot. Other than his keynotes, which are scripted, and going on CNBC, he's not like a big interview guy. I mean, yes, there's a here or there, maybe a 60 minutes, but it's not like there are other CEOs that are doing lots of interviews and podcasts and stuff like that. He's not doing that. Really interesting to see him sit up there with Benioff, do a fireside chat situation. And, there's a little bit of the, hey, you're great. No, you're great. No, you're great. But it was watching like a lion in a room with a mouse. Like, in terms of these 2 companies, this is a lion and this is a mouse. But they're both like, we're both great. And you're like, yeah, one of you is like the most dominating tech company and the most valuable company in the world. And the other one, you're doing good. Like, you're doing good.
Wouldn't know by the just when you use the animal analogy, which one was the lion and which one was the mouse, you wouldn't know when they walk on the stage.
No, because one is definitely bigger
and more boisterous.
It was definitely my second biggest highlight, just because I had never seen him in person, and this would probably be the best Dreamforce. Don't think you'll ever be able to outdo that, but that was big for me. How do you like the Tim Cook?
I really enjoyed Tim Cook. It was very intimate. We were in the Yerba Buena Arts Center in the theater. We were as close as we were able to get.
Yeah.
Literally. We were right behind the reserved seating row.
Yeah, we won't talk about how we did that. Let's not talk about that.
We just got online, and nobody happened to be on the line.
Breaking news. Nobody was online.
Weird.
So weird.
Super weird how that happened.
Super weird.
I guess we started the line. And then we did, right?
We're going to edit this out in post?
No.
All right, keep talking. I don't know about our line situation.
No, he was super thoughtful.
Yeah.
And he came across that way. And everything that he said around, and I liked how Mark kept pressing him on values. And he kept because that was the big thing, right? It was kind of right after the main keynote. Like we scooted right over there, I think. And he just picked up kind of where he left off with the main keynote and talked about that. Like what runs through Apple's core that makes it so great.
Yeah.
And Tim Cook started talking a little bit about their values and one of the more touching moments where he harkened back to Steve Jobs.
Yes.
And talked about their relationship together and how they talked at the end of every day about like how the day went. And he was like, wow, we're in the theater where so many products have been announced over the years. And I had said that to you walking in. I'm like, this is going to be crazy because we're seeing Tim Cook in that theater where they've announced stuff.
Yeah.
And he's going to probably mention it. And he didn't choke up or anything, but he was definitely touched by the fact that that's where this was happening and so many great things that happened in the past for Apple. It was cool to just be in the room. Let's say that.
Yeah,
it was cool to be in the room.
Hey, the content wasn't groundbreaking.
No,
it was
very mind-blowing.
Very the stuff I've heard before, and I read Steve Jobs' biography, so I know a lot of the stuff about Apple. And obviously, I'm a huge Apple fanboy. But I do like where some companies are going now, and I think Apple and Salesforce are two that are kind of out there. The others kind of waver somehow, but I like that there is a morality to business now that and something really started a lot by Benioff, or put out a lot by Benioff, like, hey, business should be about change. It shouldn't just be about profit. And Apple is one of those. And so he talked a lot about going carbon neutral, about recycling, about these things. And so, but I thought the best line was, we don't want to be first, we want to be best. And so we're never going to fight to be first on anything. We're just going to fight to be best. And that means we're first, we'll do it. But if that means we have to hold back, and again, and we could do a whole, maybe that's what we'll do in our next December one will be streaming, because there's all these new streaming things. We could do a whole riff on that. Just watching them enter into markets, and sometimes they enter in where the market doesn't exist and they make the market, and sometimes they enter the market way late. And you're like, wow, how's that going to work? And it's just interesting to watch them. So,
and sometimes they succeed with those late entries, and sometimes they fail.
You know what they're very good at? Social networking.
They're awful at social
Ping,
networking.
remember Ping?
They've tried a couple times to embed social into iTunes, and it's never worked.
Never worked.
Ever.
Never going to work.
No.
They're just, that's not in their DNA.
It just isn't.
They're a product company. Yeah. Make products. And now they're into services, but services are basically, bundled products.
Yeah, their services are more productized than they are like services.
Yeah, they're not, right?
They're part of, it's kind of like, you use this physical product.
And you have this service.
This service.
Right. That could have been one of your picks. Then let's talk about the Obama in the room.
Obama in the room. How do we get on that line?
Let's not talk about that.
How are we doing with lines? We did really well with lines, I think.
Let's not talk about that. We definitely pushed some boundaries of what you can do if you just walk confidently.
That was the note. Just stare straight ahead and walk like you belong there. That's it. Just move. Just move forward.
I'm here and I should be here.
I should be here. I belong here.
I belong here.
I belong here, and I will get in this line. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were in the waiting for Obama. We don't talk about the whole wait. It was a lot. There was a very big energy. I've never felt energy like that in a room before. And obviously when he came on, they did the fireside chat again. Benioff's getting better at this. This time I thought he did this thing that he always does that I just wish he would just learn a bit. Even Obama called him out. He's like, do you have any prepared questions? He's like, oh, I never prepare questions. And later Obama's like, maybe you should prepare questions.
Yeah, maybe you should prepare.
When you're talking to the ex-president of the United States, maybe you should have some questions ready.
Something. Because
what would happen is, this is almost every one of these things.
So how's it going?
How's it going? Obama riffs. They would have a great little interaction. It was really fun. You could tell that they knew each other and they had some communication. They weren't friends, but they definitely had some communication. And then he'd set him onto a track. So Benioff would say, hey, what about this topic? And then Obama would do a 15-minute riff on it. And then, Benioff would come back and he'd say, oh, so it's about this one thing, leadership. And he got caught up. He got this one moment and then he dug in. He then gave it to Obama. Obama then took it for 15 minutes. Then when he came back, he then just asked the same question again.
He basically asked the same question. He just didn't know where to go there.
So it's about leaders who are leaders. And he did it again. I was like, come on, Mark. He just did 15 minutes on that.
He really
How
just
do you
needed
see
to
leaders
stay,
and leaders?
He kind of just needed to stay out of the way because we all know, having seen Barack Obama before in interviews, that, I've never seen him live, so I don't know how they're cut up and packaged.
Right.
But the guy can just talk.
Just talk.
So you just need to set him on a path and let him go because he's gonna talk.
And there were moments. There was a moment where Obama said, and I've made mistakes, and my brain went, holy effing moly.
Name one. Name five. Go now.
When he stopped, I would have said, hey, you were just talking about whatever. You said in your presidency and your whatever that you've made mistakes. Could you tell us about some of those mistakes and how you've learned from them? I would have fallen down. Oh, wait, let's actually learn something new. Something like. Also, just because I think when he goes a little bit off script, that's when you get to see what we're there for is to see a different side of him, right? We've seen him do presidential speeches. You want to see the different side. You want to see him open up. You want to see him, talk about stuff. When he talks about his wife, it's the best part of him because
he's hilarious.
His wife is the best part of him.
Yeah.
And so having him go and just kind of talk about her.
She's management, I'm labor.
Yeah. The relationship, and it is. I know it's part of their shtick, but it's so nice. And anyway, that was just a moment, and we were talking about because we're sitting there for hours waiting for him to come on. At least he came on at the right time. So for ex-presidents, he even wins out over Clinton because he wasn't late.
Because he was not late.
It started 5 minutes.
Time.
Yeah, on time, and started
on time.
Went 1 hour, budget. And then boom, out. But
lots of space there, by the way.
What?
Well, in that room, they kind of it's a big keynote room, and it got smaller because they had to create an enormous aisle. Essentially half the room.
Basically, no one was allowed to sit behind him.
Yeah, nobody behind him.
Yes.
And there were security everywhere, and go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe one little topic, go
back. I was going to go there, and I think I know where you're going, so yeah. I'll bring us there.
Security.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Okay.
All right. I think we're talking about the same thing.
Maybe.
We'll see. Anyway, I really enjoyed the Obama. You didn't ask me, but I enjoyed the Obama speech as well.
Justin, how did you enjoy the Obama speech?
I enjoyed it a lot as well. My favorite part of it was when Mark asked him about his values for the second time, maybe. And maybe it was the first time, maybe it was the second, and he was talking about when I talk to my kids and the things that I want to kind of pass down to them. I just tell them something real simple. I tell them to be kind and be useful.
And
those
wrote
are
that
great
down
words.
And tweeted it to my daughter, sent it to my daughter. I'm like,
I also tweeted that out later, and because Yo-Yo Ma echoed it. He was if you were in the room earlier, Barack Obama said something powerful.
Yep.
Be kind and be useful. And they both were it was yes, be those things.
So easy.
So
that's
simple.
the other thing.
Break it down. It's the
here's
dumbest
not
thing.
10 things you should do in your life. Be kind to everybody.
Be useful.
Be useful on this planet.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
It was
people were,
amazing.
and I think it was Yo-Yo Ma who talked about treating people with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
That's it. Treat people with dignity, respect, be kind, be useful. That's like the big takeaways from this conference. And I don't know, maybe it was like we talked about the GTD summit, like that we had gone to like 6-8 months ago. Maybe that conference changed my like whole view on what a conference could be.
Perspective.
Yeah, because that's what the big takeaways from that conference were, more like thinky, not like I'm gonna go play with Flow. All right. I mean, that's something that you could totally take out of Dreamforce. Not for me.
Yeah.
Not this time around.
The one thing because I was thinking too as we walked around, and I've been to a million conferences around Salesforce and not so much about other things. And if you want to listen to that podcast, by the way, there's a whole GTD Summit podcast back in the summer. Go listen to it. But one thing that I really like that they did, and I wish Dreamforce would do, is a little bit of breaking down the walls. I wish they would get up there in the beginning, and Mark would do this, and he would say, here, welcome to Dreamforce, welcome to whatever. What I want everybody here, because it would have fit so perfectly into his
for the together thing.
Yeah, but it fits is to go, hey, one thing I want you to do at this conference is I want you to open up, and I want you to talk to people, and I want you to walk in and everybody be free and open and honest just to say something to somebody else, shake their hand, ask them how they're doing, where they came from. Like, I want you to start a new conversation. And I thought that was so powerful. I know it felt a little, like this is at the GT Summit, it felt a little like, at the beginning. I was like, I don't want to open up. But then they kept saying it, and it would happen. Because you'd be like standing there getting your coffee, and you just, instead of just being like, hey, whatever,
say,
and
hello.
look down at their badge, you would then go, hey, how are you? What's on your mind? Or, again, we had written these little questions, ask me about, which is a little touchy-feely, but fine. I wish they would bring that into their conversation. I think that would be a really great way to kick off Dreamforce, is to open it up and say, this is about us. This is about this community. And as part of the community, I want you guys to open up and talk to each other. So let's do that. Not just birds of a feather conversations, but like really, really do that.
I think people do it at Dreamforce naturally because there is this rallying thing. There's a rallying point, and it's called Salesforce.
But every conference is
you could totally reinforce it from the start. You could do the thing with the badge. You can totally do any. Salesforce can be very creative with that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I do feel like they try. They have the user group stuff. They have the birds of a feather meetings and breakfasts and lunches and what have you.
Right.
But yeah, the thing that we were going to circle back to, I think, about security, talking about keynote. Yeah, so some protesters at the keynote. It's happened. It has happened over the last 6 or 8 months or so.
Well, no, it's happened in keynotes before.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Over the last 6 or 8 months, I think at these world tours, some of the keynotes are being disrupted.
Right.
Primarily, from my understanding, it's around the fact that Salesforce has a contract with ICE. I believe that's the main protest that is occurring during these protests that are happening during the keynotes. So there are, I think, a handful of, maybe more than a handful. There's probably more. I don't know the number, so I don't want to state anything, but employees at Salesforce who are unhappy with the fact that Salesforce has a contract with ICE.
Right.
And there are obviously just people in the ecosystem, in the community, that are upset by the same thing. And someone got up and started voicing their opinion during the keynote. I think Mark handled it as well as he could have. It seemed like they were prepared for it.
Yeah.
There are conspiracy theories flying that they planted it. I don't believe that. I don't know why you would want that as a plant. But there are conspiracies flying that was actually a thing. I don't believe that. I believe this person showed up in earnest to protest and got up, started protesting. Mark was in the general vicinity as he's walking around the room during the keynote and said, listen, you've got 30 seconds. I'm going to let you say whatever you want for 30 seconds, and then you can sit down or you can leave.
Right.
and literally a 30-second clock just came up on the board and started ticking down from 30. So they were obviously, they're very well prepared, or conspiracy theory. And they let this person speak for 30 seconds, and then they proceeded to not stop speaking. So they walked them out. Seemed like it was a calm, just let's walk them out. But then there were 2 or 3 others that kind of popped up, and there was security everywhere, just sort of rumbling around, trying to make sure Mark was safe and others were safe, because they are kind of walking around and they're kind of exposed during these keynotes. If you think about it, their backs are to a lot of people walking down those aisles. If somebody just wants to stick their foot out, trip them, and do whatever they could, it's a little dangerous in that way, to know that there are people out there that are
not on your side,
not happy with what you're doing, and are vocalizing it in a way that's acceptable, but
that's free speech.
It is, but at the same time, it's free speech, but you're also at a conference that you've paid to go to sit to watch a thing.
Yeah.
So sure, free speech, get up and do your thing, but at the same time, there's lots of people around who paid $2,000 to sit there and watch this thing.
And you're interrupting.
You're interrupting the whole thing.
Right.
So I get it. You've got a thing to say, but I approve of the way Salesforce handled it for that reason. There are people there that are not super interested in what you're out there fighting for. We get it. You are. That's cool. There's a place for that. You got your 30 seconds. Now you gotta leave.
It's also, they know they're on a stage. When you're protesting, one of the things about protesting is to make sure that you get the most attention. You're protesting.
They got it out there.
So you're at a conference, which has 170,000 people. That is the world's largest tech conference. You're talking to one of the, a billionaire tech mogul, and you're being streamed live to whatever the 30 million, 40 million people are watching online. You have a thing, and that's, again, I don't take away anybody from protesting. I thought they two-handed it well. It definitely was. They were definitely ready for it. They definitely had a thing, and we know it's going to happen. So here's how we're going to handle it. We're going to do the 30-minute thing, the 30-second thing. I think Benioff handled it very well. The second 2, he just
ignored.
Right.
He just ignored them.
Right. And again, it's the whole thing. It's a lose-lose.
It's a weird thing that they wait for him, because he didn't get on the stage till about 30 to 40 minutes into the keynote.
Right.
It's weird that they waited for that.
Oh, that's when everybody's watching.
I just thought it was weird, because I would have thought maybe during the whole together part that Keith Block presented would be all right, I'm going to call BS on that.
But they're not calling BS because they're not, all they're doing is trying to get their message. And
anyway,
their message isn't BS.
They did a nice job of getting their message out. We are talking about it right now.
There you go.
There were blog posts and tweets and all the things right afterwards. So they did what they needed to do in terms of the protest. Salesforce handled it well. We move on.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, great Dreamforce. Definitely, I switched from last year. I did kind of the drive-by Dreamforce. This year I did the 7-day, 6-day full-on Dreamforce.
I was there for a while.
Definitely going back to drive-by next year.
Drive-by Dreamforce.
Drive-by Dreamforce. I want to fly in on Tuesday morning, go to the keynote, fly out Thursday afternoon. Boom and done. Anyway, so why don't we just make some quick picks of the week, and then we'll let this puppy go.
All right, I'll do a very quick one.
It
was announced. Trailhead Go is now available on iOS only.
Yep.
Not Android. This was part of the partnership with Apple. This is part of why Tim Cook, I imagine, was at Dreamforce. They launched it first on iOS. I'm sure that was a thing. Let's get this out there on iOS first.
Yep.
And exclusive.
We don't want to be first. We want to be best.
Get Tim Cook at Dreamforce. Yeah. But it's a native way of learning Salesforce. So it's Trailhead on your iOS device, native, take the quizzes, it all works. Check it out. Go into the App Store and download Trailhead Go today.
Yeah.
It is free.
It is free. Just need your Trailhead login.
That's it.
I am going to pick, so yours is free. Mine's just a few more dollars.
$1 or $2.
And so one of my roles here at Arkus Incorporated is I am in charge of the technology
You are the ultimate beta tester.
I'm the beta tester. So my MacBook Pro had a bulging battery, which you don't really want
No.
in a MacBook Pro.
Apparently that's a bad thing.
I was actually worried about going on the plane with it. So I kind of I was ignoring it, and the battery was saying, help me, and service me. And I was like, you know what? Not a problem. I can survive. It was just working. So then, but it started to bulge, like it was rocking back and forth when you put it on a table. And I was like, now I'm kind of worried about getting on a plane, because you hear about batteries exploding on planes, right? So
No,
I'm like, ooh.
I've never heard of that, and I don't want to.
You've never
Just
heard of that?
stop. I don't want to hear any more about it.
Oh, wow. You just don't know. But anyway, there's been a lot about
Shut
batteries
your
getting on fire.
mouth.
Go Google it.
I'm not Googling that.
Google.
No.
So
No, thank you.
I'm piloting or beta testing the new MacBook Pro 16-inch.
beta testing.
I'm beta testing it.
You mean you're enjoying a new computer?
I would not say enjoying, because I'm doing a full build up from ground up. It's the first time I've done this.
I'm looking
ever.
at it back to back to mine, and it is slightly,
It is a little bit.
ever so slightly larger.
It is. It's a nice machine. They I would say the things that they kind of took the MacBook Pro 15-inch. They added a little bit extra space on the inside so it can go to 16-inch. And then really what they did is they brought back like a lot of the keyboard stuff that everybody, and there's a lot of internal stuff. They made the battery as big as you possibly can, that the TSA will even allow. Can't get any bigger. The TSA won't allow that kind of battery on the plane. So that's it. That's as big as you're getting. It does have amazing battery life. And they put back they redid the keyboard so it's not the double butterfly, it's better, and they put a dedicated escape key, which I know is a big thing for everybody. Anyway, it's a nice laptop. It definitely, I can see, will be the one that, probably be around for the next 3 to 5 years. It seems like it's a really, they'll do the internal stuff, but no one wants bigger than this, like bigger, so you've kind of got as far as you're going to go. So the MacBook Pro 16, go buy one, starting at, I think they kept the price the same, but starting at $2,400.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
So mine's free,
Yeah.
and you can learn a lot of things.
Yeah. On a device that also costs $1,000.
Whatever.
So let's ignore the fact that you have to have
services.
Anyway, we'll
It's software plus services.
maybe
okay?
next year, maybe next thing for our last episode of the year, we'll do a special episode.
How many more episodes are you signing me up for this year?
One more.
Yeah, you already said we were going to do streaming TV.
That's what I'm saying. For next time, we'll get on. We'll do a whole. Let's do it, like redo our top 10 streaming one. Like, let's do our top 10 lists, but we'll also talk about all the different networks and what we like and like which ones we think are fun. You've done live streaming TV. I have almost all these networks. The only one I haven't tried, I will try by the time we do this. And we'll talk about that next time. Until then, it's Justin and Jason. You can follow us in all the good places.
Is that our names? Just real quick.
I was being quick, I was being slow. We're on the Twitter, we're on the places. We'll see you. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you hear this before. Otherwise, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Happy Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all the different days. Until then, it's us saying, enjoy those Scotty days.